Denzel Burke has faced numerous top quarterbacks in his career, and he's already got high praise for Julian Sayin.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And during today's show, we'll answer questions you submitted about the Buckeyes football team. But first, anytime Denzel Burke is behind a microphone, I am going to listen to what that young man has to say from when he first got on campus until just a day ago at the NFL Combine. He is always saying something insightful and something that makes you think, let's think about this a little bit more. And that was my thought when he started diving into Julian Sayin and discussing what he saw from Sayin and Kienholz while at practice. And he believes that Julian Sayin is that guy. And for Burke to say that about a guy that's never started a Buckeye football game, that's huge. And it makes me very excited about what Sayin will do it when he's leading the Buckeyes offense. And I have a good feeling he's going to be leading the Buckeyes offense in the fall. And for Denzel Burke to be there and to take his time and thoroughly discuss the things that happened during practice, he was even asked a question. And I believe that was by Stephen Means of Cleveland.com, asking him who he thinks Sayin reminds him of when he throws the football. Burke paused, looked up a little bit, took some time to gather his thoughts before saying something wrong. He didn't say a player's name, but by reading another article, that a writer thinks he may have been thinking about C.J. Stroud. Now, I don't know if Sayin throws the ball, if he has that type of accuracy, and if he's a ball placement specialist just like C.J. Stroud. I'm not sure yet. I do know that Sayin has some zip on the ball. Sayin processes at an elite level. And it was something we saw when he was on the field this past year, the one touchdown that he had that he threw to Bennett Christian. I remember that. I also recently saw that clip somewhere on the socials, and it was an RPO. Bennett Christian was a well-timed call because Bennett Christian was wide open. But, man, Sayin zipped that ball right in there like only he can. And I'm thinking, oh, boy, homie's a true freshman. Throwing like that, I can't wait to see what he does when he started for the Buckeyes. And Denzel Burke, I'm going to read some of his quotes here really quickly because he is backing up a lot of the things the talent evaluators have been saying about Burke. These guys that were watching him play there in high school and at the recruiting camps in the summer. When what Burke is saying, when Burke saw him in practice, is basically the same thing the talent evaluators were saying about Julian Sayin as well. I think that speaks volumes about the talent Sayin has. Here's Burke on Sayin, quote, I think he's that guy, to be honest with you. And Lincoln is pretty good, too. I'm ready to see this little matchup they're going to have. Julian is a great player and puts great zip on the ball, has great pocket presence, and he's going to have a great career, end quote. Think about the last part there. Puts great zip on the ball, has great pocket presence, and he's going to have a great career. You normally don't say that about a guy that is just getting on campus that maybe had a couple of good practices early, but all of a sudden just fizzled out and he just realized, he started off hot, but he couldn't sustain the play at that level. Sayin is getting everybody's attention early, wowing some of the older players that are about to get drafted into the National Football League, and doing it over and over and over and over again. And let's just say Will Howard didn't transfer to Ohio State, and Sayin still transferred to Ohio State. And you have a quarterback room of Sayin, of Aaron Noland, of Devin Brown, and Lincoln Kienholz. Do you think that Devin Brown would have started? Who is he better thrower in your eyes? I'll give you time to think about it and the answer to yourself. Because something tells me that if people were to watch practice, especially spring practice, which starts on March 17th, and watch these guys practice and see how they perform, and they're thinking, well, Sayin throws a better ball based off what? Based off things you saw in practice. Or you may come out and say, well, Devin Brown throws a better ball. Okay, cool. You can figure that out. But the guy that throws a better ball might be the better processor, might be the guy that makes better decisions, and that guy should probably start. To me, when I watch these two guys play football, just go Devin Brown and Julian Sayin, I think Sayin's ball is better. I think there's more zip on the ball. I've never been I'm not here to really talk bad about a guy, but I think Sayin throws a better ball than Devin Brown. Devin Brown was older. He'd been on the program longer. He probably would have started early because I don't think Ryan Day would have started a true freshman. That's just so rare in college football in general, especially with Ohio State's offense, which is complex. I would have a hard time saying Sayin would start because of his age. But if you look over that, I think there's a true case to be made that maybe Devin Brown was only the backup quarterback because he was older, and it would have eliminated some attention off of Julian Sayin, and it did actually, and it would have left some questions outside of press conferences and Ryan Day was talking to the media. But Sayin, if he is that guy, I can't wait to see him play. I can't wait to see him play in general. But it's Denzel Burke. I remember in the offseason, Denzel Burke made some comments about Jeremiah Smith and talking about him and how it took him a couple of practices to realize, oh, this guy's different. We see the film and we hear some things that he says during interviews and we hear people talk about him, but you truly don't know how a guy is until he gets on campus or he gets in practice. And then all of a sudden, what do you find? He's better than advertised. And that's my hope for Julian Sayin moving forward. Even for Lincoln Kienholz or anybody, I hope everybody on the roster is better than advertised. I hope Ryan Day coaches at a rate in 2025 that is better than advertised. Same thing for Julian Sayin. I really hope his play is better than advertised because that means he's progressing, he's being developed, he is doing all the things that you expect from him, maybe at a later date, but he's happening sooner than expected. I think that with Julian Sayin and what he brings to the table, along with the skill position players that Ohio State has, I think he is preparing himself right now to lead the Buckeyes offense in the fall. And I'm not just saying that because I think that Ryan Day is going to help him be that guy. During the national championship celebration, he walked in there, and I heard Jeremy Birmingham talk about this on a podcast and discussing that he was trying to find Julian Sayin, try to get pictures of all the players. He couldn't find them. Remember, Sayin had longer hair. Well, after the Natty win, Sayin was at the Natty celebration, has shorter hair, literally looking more like the part. I'm not here to say that long hair should not be on a quarterback. I truly don't care if you got long hair or short hair. That's not my cup. That's not my avenue. That's not my battle to fight. But there is a certain look. There's a certain demeanor. There's a maturity that comes with someone saying, there's a look I want to have, and I want to cut the hair so people take me more serious and people don't think I'm just a kid. Jordan Hancock recently was looking at some of the NFL Combine interviews. His popped up, and he cut his hair. And it's the same thing if you go to an interview, you want to look the part. You want to look like you belong. You want to make sure you're well-groomed. And thinking well-groomed, that word's in my mind because of the Yankees saying, oh, you can now have a well-groomed beard. And I'm thinking, buddy, it's 2025. Y'all should have been doing this a long time ago, but y'all were stuck in your ways. I understand it. But even the Yankees are coming around and changing things up. But Jordan Hancock cut his hair, and his hair is short now, cut the dreads off. And I'm thinking, was that for the interview? Was there for people to take it more serious? It's possible. And it makes sense to do that. One thing I've learned as I get older is that the longer your hair, there's less likely, for men that is, there's a less likely chance of people to take you serious. Now, if you have shorter hair and you're well-groomed or you're put together, not saying you got to wear a suit and tie, but if you're put together, you look like you take care of yourself, people will take you more serious. And a lot of that comes with your face, your beard, the hair, all that stuff. If you're kept up top, people will look at you and say, oh, I got to pay attention to that guy, to what he's saying, because he looks the part. Stan is looking more the part physically. He has the tools physically to make him a great quarterback. And Denzel Burke heaps him high praise, said he thinks he's that guy, speaking of Sayin, and he believes that his pocket presence, the zip on the ball, his leadership, the poise, all that's going to go into him being a great Buckeye quarterback. Well, thinking about some things that Denzel Burke said about Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz, a question popped into my head about those two guys battling to be QB1 in the fall. This episode is brought to you by Fabric by Gerber Life. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. As a parent, I want to make sure my family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric gives me that peace of mind. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today at just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Thank you all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. If this is your first time checking out the show, either listening to it or checking us out on YouTube, welcome, and thank you for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes right here on the Feel Good Friday. Make sure you subscribe or follow Locked On Buckeyes on the app you're currently on, and make sure you hit that notification button so you get notified every time a new show goes live. Speaking of going live, I am looking forward to getting the Buckeyes back on the field, to getting this competition more live than it already is. That is the quarterback competition, which is a two-man race. Julian Sayin and Kienholz. And we'll think about what Denzel Burke said about both quarterbacks and thinking about what's going to happen over the next few weeks and months. I started to wonder if Ohio State needs a quarterback competition, because even last year or the year before, or any QB battle Ryan Day has had since he's been the head coach, it's been one where you know the guy that's going to win the battle before the battle gets underway. 2019, that season, it was Justin Fields. 2021, it was Stroud all the way. 2023, it was McCord all the way. 2024, it was Will Howard all the way. Now, there were some battles and some things that happened in practice, but most of us around here believe that it was Fields, Stroud, McCord, Howard, no matter what. And even right now, many of us believe it's saying no matter what. Yes, there's a possibility that Kienholz can rise up and do everything needed to win that battle. But if that happens, my gut tells me that Sain's going to raise his level of play too and still win that thing. And with that question in mind, do the Buckeyes need to have a quarterback competition? I think it's, one, a valid one to ask, but also kind of foolish, because of course the Buckeyes need to have a quarterback competition. How else are you going to find what a guy is made of if he's not competing against someone in his own room to battle it out to earn a job? This is something that makes so much sense, and I'm so glad that Ryan Day is continuing to make this a competition every single day. I understand you may end up losing Lincoln Kienholz to the transfer portal because Lincoln believes that he's good enough to be a Power 4 starter, which I do believe at some point he will be. Could be in a Buckeye uniform, maybe it's somewhere else. But I do believe he has the tools to be a not just a Buckeye quarterback down the road, potentially a Power 4 quarterback, and it could happen next year. But you have to compete. Competing brings out the best in people, best in athletes. You find out a whole lot about yourself as a competitor when you're out there on the field or the court or wherever you are to say, what do I do when my back's up against the wall? What do I do when I am favored? What do I do in X, Y, and Z scenario? And there's what's going to be found right here for the Buckeyes. These coaches are going to compare stats every single day, from throws on the field to did they make the right read in the RPO game to things they do in the weight room. Not so much saying that the stronger guy is going to win the job. I'm not saying that. But there is a true scenario that, are you progressing? Are you getting stronger? Are you kind of leveling off? Where are you in progressing and making yourself healthier as far as physically more mature? Are you able to put on weight? Or do you have a more frail body that could lead to getting injured down the road more often than the person you're competing with? All of these things are things that I believe the Buckeyes coaches, Billy Fessler, Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and the others, are going to be looking at very, very closely to make sure they get the right guy to lead the Buckeyes offense in the fall. It would feel weird, to be honest with you, if there was no QB battle and the competition was basically one before camp started or one as soon as Will Howard ended up leaving. It would feel weird. Ryan Day could have done the easy thing and said, hey, Lincoln, go off to the portal, man. Wait, why? Bro, I just got here. Well, I know it's only December. I know the portal just opened. But, homie, you're not going to win this job. It's Julian Sayin all the way. You mean to tell me this little kid right here is going to win this over me? But I've been here longer. I know what it takes to be a Buckeye. I know the system better. You mean this little old kid right here is going to win this job? Yeah, man, he got more tools than you. It would have been very easy for Ryan Day to say, hey, man, go. It would have been so easy. But if that were the thing, if Friday would have just said, hey, go, keep on going, go on about your business. You ain't got no business here no more. We'll find somebody else to take over for you. If Friday would have just gone ahead and done that, yeah, it may have been easier for Lincoln to be at another school right now to try to win that job at somewhere else. But it wouldn't have given Julian Sayin the true competitor that he needs. Because Ryan Day ain't starting Tavian St. Clair. No. If it was Tavian St. Clair and nobody else, what's Ryan Day going to do? Go to the portal. And he might get a couple guys. Why? You think Ryan Day going to start a true freshman quarterback? I'm laughing because that's not even a reality. And I know people out there are thinking, man, Tavian St. Clair has a real shot to win it. Yeah, because it's in the room. That's the only reason why. Because of talent, because of knowledge of the playbook, because of knowing what it takes to win big games, especially when you play Texas week number 1. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. And I love competition. I mean, I've been watching the combine throughout the day and looking at Ty Hamilton and Jack Sawyer and Tyleik Williams as they go through on-field drills and looking to see how they do. Also, by the way, them dudes did good, man. Ty Hamilton, I think he came in at 299 pounds, and he looks like he carries that very well. I told you before, I think the man does push-ups for breakfast. He is just physically built better than a lot of guys and able to carry that weight. And he doesn't look like he's overly, what's the word? Just overly large. I could think of another word to describe it. You know what I'm trying to say. Tyleik Williams is now at 334 pounds, moving like he's 305. And I'm thinking, hey, man, keep moving like that. You might make yourself a first-round pick. And then Jack Sawyer, a guy that even in the was a figure-8 drill, when you're picking up a towel or you're putting it down on the outside of a ring and you're running around making a figure-8. What do you find with Jack Sawyer? We had a show on it yesterday. If you didn't miss yesterday's show, the Everydayers definitely enjoyed it. That Jack Sawyer can boost his draft stock right now. And why might he boost his draft stock? Because he's going to showcase things that he didn't do consistently on the field while competing against other people and himself. You got a guy in front of you in every single drill and a guy after Jack Sawyer in every single drill. And what are you going to find? You're naturally going to compare Jack Sawyer against the person in front of him, the person behind him, the other talented elite defensive ends that are in that same grouping. You're going to naturally compare them. And if you come out of it saying, well, Jack Sawyer maybe wasn't the best, but he showcased some things that show that he's working and he's getting better, that's what you want. Compete against yourself while competing against your peers. That goes for these two guys as well. Lincoln Kienholz and Julian Sayin. They're competing against themselves and competing against each other for one job. Only one guy can win it. And how do you figure out who the right guy is? By competing for the right to earn the title QB1 of the Buckeyes in 2025. One thing we know about those two guys is they're both talented, but also I answered one question that popped into my head about the Buckeyes quarterback competition. There's more questions you submitted. We'll tackle those questions in a mailbag on a Friday next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. This week, I'm looking at Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds. When I win, my money hits my account in as little as 15 minutes, no waiting around. PrizePicks even offers weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day, just like last week. And every single week, you submit questions on the community tab on the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube page. You submit questions. We answer your questions right here on the show. And just like we did last week, we're going to go the first question that was submitted, and we will go to the one that's most recent to this show being recorded. We're going to go down. It's 3 questions today. Just like last week, maybe it was 4. And going to have a little bit of fun with this one. First question comes from Lisa Sims, 1652. Thank you for the question. What do you think they mean by we're having a spring showcase instead of a regular spring game? That's a really good question, and one that I've been thinking about for quite a long time, because we've never seen this. At least in my lifetime, I've never seen Ohio State go away from a spring game and do more of a spring showcase. Before reading Ryan Day's comments on it, I believe it's going to be somewhat of a competition where you're going to have one-on-one between a wide receiver and a corner. You're going to have some 7-on-7 to where you're going to get quarterback and skill positions versus linebackers and secondary members of the defense. You're going to get some one-on-one drills between O-linemen and D-linemen. You're going to get a different mix and more of a practice-style feel. However, I don't think you're going to get a full scrimmage. And after reading what Ryan Day thought about it, I don't think you're going to get more towards a traditional scrimmage like Ohio State normally has. You're going to have your normal pregame warm-ups, the individual drills before the spring game actually starts. But I don't think Ryan Day is going to change his mind based off the length of the 2024 season, where Ryan Day is going to say, I know it said we're going to do a spring showcase. They're already selling tickets to said showcase with graphics that say showcase. We're not going to go ahead and change it now to go back to a spring game. The desire of a lot of coaches, I'm going to get this out before going to the next question. The desire of a lot of coaches to go away from the traditional spring game to try to keep guys on their team instead of putting game film out there so that they can to keep them from getting tampered with. I get the desire. But with the way this whole NIL and agent game works in college football, spring game or not, these guys are still going to get contacted. These guys are still going to try to get poached and pulled away from their own school the way they currently are. Coaches are still going to have to stay up late and really wonder, man, is this guy going to go or is that guy going to go? That's just going to happen if there's a spring game or not. So if you're trying to not put stuff on the TV for people to watch, cool. But the same person that was like, man, I was going to watch that guy play, but now I'm not going to watch him play. He still might get tampered. He still might try to tamper with the guy in your team, even if there's not a spring game. So let's not get all up in arms and say, well, no spring game means no tampering. Tampering's been a part of this sport for decades. NIL's been a part of this sport for decades. It's now legal. It's being used in a way that it's not meant to be, but there's no body ruling things and enforcing laws. So laws are rules. So you get the NIL space like it currently is. I'll go back to what I said earlier to answer the question once again. I think it's going to be a little bit more 7-on-7, one-on-one receiver versus corner, running backs going off of routes. I don't think you're going to get more of a traditional spring game. I do think there will be a scrimmage, a dialed-down scrimmage, not the full-length scrimmage we're going to normally get. It's going to have a practice field with a scrimmage at the end, just to kind of showcase the talent, not the traditional way that is the talent is showcased on the traditional spring game. I'm not going to read Ryan Day's quote. Went a little bit longer with that one. The next question comes from Akron Kid 330. Well, also, once again, thank you for the question. Do you think the Buckeyes will make playoffs? And the easy answer and the obvious answer is yes. And I wanted to go back to look at the schedule once again that Ohio State has to just make sure what I think about the Buckeyes is realistic. If Ohio State goes 10-2 in the regular season like they did last year, and let's just say last year's results are similar. They lose to a top 3 team and lose to the rival and all of a sudden miss the Big Ten championship game. They're still getting to the playoff. Now, at the end of the day, they'll be up for debate. Do they host a first-round game or do they go on the road? That's still up for debate. Not trying to go there, but they'll still win and still make the playoff. While looking at the schedule right now, I personally wrote down on my paper one loss definitely. There might be a second one. At worst, Ohio State's 9-3. That's not a spot I think Ryan Day is going to be next year because Ryan Day's never lost 3 regular season games, and I don't think that's going to happen next year. The floor is 9-3. I think the most realistic record for Ohio State next year is 10-2 or 11-1. As with those being the most realistic records for Ohio State at the end of the regular season, I think Ohio State's definitely going to be a playoff team. Definitely top 8. They honestly have a real good shot. So as long as all the things happen with the position battles that we think they're going to, the Buckeyes are going to have a good shot to get back to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. Going to have a great chance to snap their 4-game losing streak to the team up north, and going to have a good shot, honestly, realistic, to beat Texas in week 1. Currently, right now, we're going to get this out of the way again. I have the Texas game as a loss. It's hard to even pencil that in as a win because we don't know who the quarterbacks are going to be. It hasn't been announced. There are quarterback competitions and position battles that are going to be going underway throughout the summer and spring practice in the fall camp. So I can't say yes right now. I do think Texas wins that game. The only other game that really makes me kind of nervous, I mean, there's a few. Ohio State goes on the road to Washington. That's after a bye. I think that bye week helps Ohio State win that game. Ohio State goes on the road to Illinois for the Battle of the Ella Book. Brent Bielema has done a great job building that program and getting the Illinois Fighting Illini to play a whole lot better recently. I think Ohio State wins that one. After the Illinois game, they go to Wisconsin. That's always a tough place to play. My guess is that's a night game. Ohio State wins that. They're off after that. They got Penn State at home, win. On the road at Purdue, a beatdown. Back home to play UCLA and Rutgers. Both of those are wins. Last game of the regular season, on the road in Ann Arbor, in the Big House. Even when Ohio State has had the better team over the past 4 years, they lost. Do I think Ohio State's going to lose next year? I know they have the talent to win. Do we know what kind of game's going to be called by the offensive play caller? We're not sure. Last year, I think I recently heard that Chip Kelly didn't call plays that day, which explains a lot about why that game went the way that it did. Last question here on a mailbag on a Friday to end the week. It comes from Warren Tracy Davis, 7658. Thank you for the question. And this goes back to something we talked about earlier in regards to Lincoln Kienholz and Will Howard. Let's compare 2 quarterbacks, Will Howard and Lincoln Kienholz. The question is, when Lincoln is a 5th-year player, will he be like Will Howard, who's bigger, better, faster, the better athlete? I think who's bigger is going to be Will Howard. 6'4", 235, probably more 240 at times. I think Will Howard is going to be the bigger player at the end of Lincoln Kienholz's 5th year if he stays in college football for that long. I think the better and faster player at the end of the day, the faster player, the better athlete is going to be Lincoln Kienholz. What we got last year from Will Howard is one that I don't know if Kienholz can be that efficient on the football. It's a projection that I don't know if I can even say, hey, will you be able to have 6 games of throwing over 80%? Probably not. Will you be able to complete your first 13 passes in the national championship, assuming you get there your final year playing football? Probably not. The likelihood of him being the efficient passer, the efficient player that Will Howard was this past year, it's not likely. Kienholz is a better athlete, will not be physically bigger than Will Howard. I think his athleticism will be tapped in a great way at another school down the road. I don't see him winning this quarterback battle, which is also a big reason why I don't think he'll be at Ohio State if he stays for the fall season. I think that's it. He goes to the portal in December, may stick around for the playoff run, but it wouldn't shock me if he didn't. I think Will Howard last year, especially with it so fresh in our mind, I don't know if Kienholz can be that kind of thrower. I think overall, all-around quarterback, being able to utilize your legs and your athleticism and your arm, I think Kienholz will be the better overall quarterback. Won't have some of the mental obstacles that come up in games when you knew Will Howard was going to have one or two really bad decisions. May it be a misread on an RPO, or may it be a boneheaded interception in the game against Penn State. I think Kienholz won't have some of those errors. It's tough, man. I like both guys. Kienholz has not showed me enough as a passer to make me think he can be the kind of thrower Will Howard was last year, or be as efficient as Will Howard in 2024. I haven't seen it yet. It's not me saying it can't happen. Will Howard was just really good last year. Really good. Right place, right time, right talent, right coach. Everything was right for him to play out of his mind last year. And I think like Kienholz can have that right situation. I don't know if he can be that kind of passer, the efficient passer that Will Howard was in 2024. Credit to Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Cole O.C. and Hartline and everybody else for getting the best of Will Howard last year. I don't want to call him out yet, but I just got a hard time thinking Kienholz is going to be at Ohio State for 5 years. If he is, great, man, because that's just the icing on the cake. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Remember, questions are only able to be submitted via the community tab on the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube page, generally on a Thursday evening or on a Wednesday evening or a Thursday morning. That question will get posted. You flood that thing with questions. And who knows, it may be a show that one day where it's all your questions and I'm just answering questions you have about your Ohio State Buckeyes. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes right here on a Friday, making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because my guy, Craig Sheeman, is the individual that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter or any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens at 317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're up out of here on a Friday. I hope you enjoy the Combine this weekend. Go Bucks.